Hello and welcome to the SCAD Savannah Film Festival, the largest university-run film festival in the U.S. I want to thank you all for joining us today. I am Sarah Rodman, Executive Editor at Entertainment Weekly, and I am so excited to be joined with your Vanguard recipient, actor and producer Tessa Thompson, her co-star and also fellow producer Nnamdi Asomugha, and the film's director, Eugene Ash. Thank you so much for joining us, creative team of Sylvie's Love. How are you?
Well, thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
Great.
Absolutely. You all look fantastic. And as good as the movie looked, I was just telling Tessa how sumptuous I think this movie looks. It is so beautiful. And Eugene, I want to start with you because the attention to detail here, the light, the colors, the costumes, I mean, it is gorgeous. So I'm curious what your mood board looked like for this. What were your inspirations for the
film? Really just old family photos, a lot of old family photos from the time, and trying to recreate the vibe and the feeling of nostalgia that I got from those old family photos, but also, of course, the films of the time. I love the Delbert Mann films with Doris Day and, and Rock Hudson, and, wanting to see that type of world populated by people of color.
Yeah, it is so gorgeous. And I mentioned Douglas Sirk earlier today too, to Tessa, this is not only a film set then, but it feels as if it were made then, and which is not shade about technology. It's just beautiful. And then I heard that you actually shot this on 16 millimeter. Is that accurate?
We did. We shot it on Super 16. Declan Quinn, our brilliant cinematographer, shot it, and Christian Epps lit it, who lit all the stuff for Spike Lee back in the day. But yeah, we were going for similar techniques we use in films like Carol and Jackie and A Single Man, which were all kind of spirit animals for the film in a way.
Yes, and these rain-soaked streets that you had me fooled that this was New York City, and it was not always New York City, right?
No, it was not ever New York City.
Never
to
was.
be honest, it was. That's right. Not even one shot. Yeah, it was mostly done on Hollywood backlots, and the big thing is that the sort of the ghosts of these fantastic movies from the past really just suffused the movie, and just kind of made us feel like we had to make that type of movie. We had to make this classic old Hollywood movie since we were shooting on the Paramount lot and the Warner Brother lot, and in these really old, beautiful theaters from the era. So it's kind of, we leaned into make the Hollywood-ness of it, but like Sparkle from the 1970s, one of my favorites, was shot on that same Warner Brothers lot. We actually shot on that same street, so it's like paying homage to that as well.
Excellent. And now talk to me about your two beautiful gifted leads here. This movie is so romantic, and I don't know if it's the moment that we're living in, but boy, I needed this. Like, it was so great to fall in love with them while they were falling in love. And so talk to me about how you all came to the project since you were all producers. Were you involved sort of from the beginning? Or what was the process for Nnamdi and Tessa for you coming on board? Nnamdi, you can start.
I might be on a little bit of a delay just because I don't have great service where I am. I also might be frozen. If none of those things are happening, then great. We'll just keep moving along.
No,
they're not. You got it. We hear you.
So
we see you.
How I got onto the project, I was on an airplane. Someone sent me the script, a mutual friend. I read the script, and I was 2 pages in, and I was blown away by the fact that it was a period piece with Black people in it, and it was about love. I mean, immediately in those first few pages, I just knew that I hadn't seen it before, and I needed to become a part of it in some sort of way. And so I spoke to Eugene. I loved the way he thought about the film. He sent me all sorts of images. I just loved his connection to it. Anytime that something's very personal to you, it's going to come out, with a special. It's like my father-in-law says, you got to like put a sock in any sort of meal that you're making because it'll be personal to you. He's from South Carolina. I don't know what that means, but Eugene's sock was in this script, and it just was, it was filled with a lot of heart. And so then I got on board to just help get it made from that point.
And we are now all going to use that phrase, aren't we? It puts a whole new spin on put a sock in it.
I don't know where that came from.
I had been hoping for an invitation to dinner at your house when we are allowed to do that again, but now with the sock business, I might have to just let's do takeout. Earl might have me eating socks. I don't know if I'll be invited anymore.
Yeah, that's right.
I feel very excited to have been brought into this process. I heard that Nnamdi was hoping to make this with a filmmaker called Eugene Ash, and I sat with Eugene and heard about his vision for this piece. I heard about the sock of it all, and while I didn't want to eat the sock, I certainly wanted to nestle myself in it. The idea of making something that centered our love and our joy was really compelling to me. I think we lost Sarah with the socks.
You're good. She's coming back on in just a moment, y'all. Sorry for the delay. There she is.
Session has been refreshed.
Hey.
So I'm back. So Justin, you were saying Nnamdi was laughing. It was beautiful. Great, even without audio. That's how good you guys are. But you were saying that you were hoping to get invited to someone's house for dinner?
I was hoping that Nnamdi.
Is that when you fell off?
That the Austin-Wall, Washington household would invite me to their home for dinner. But now that I'm hearing about Earl saying you got to put a sock in the food, I've decided I want to have takeout. But I agree with Nnamdi that when you make things from not just a principal place, but from a personal place, it reverberates inside of the DNA of the project. And I had the chance to sit down with Eugene and hear what he wanted to do with this movie. And I had long wanted to make a sort of sprawling romance. And frankly, when I looked at the films that were being made, I didn't think that I'd have the opportunity to, because we're so seldom centered in those stories. So this felt like such a unique opportunity to do that. And I'm just overwhelmed and overjoyed that it's now, going to be in the world. You make these small things and you never know, so it's just a gift.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And I love, Nnamdi, what you said before, and we had talked about this earlier. What you did here, Eugene, I think is really special in terms of not only centering Black love, but just making that the story, that it's not about the adversity that they're facing at the time. It's not about racism. That comes in organically in the places that it would have at that time, where they would have sort of faced situations like that with Lacey's co-worker's wife and that kind of thing. And her being amazed that a Negro woman could be a TV producer. But the story is not about that. And that's so exciting. And I mean, I assume that you just come to it knowing that that's the balance that you want to have. That this happened in this world, but that's not what this story is about.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we all talked about it going into it, that we wanted to make a film that was set in the past, that wasn't framed through our adversity, that we wanted to, make a film that was centered on just a very human theme of, what unfinished business with the love of your life can do to you and the repercussions that it has. And it's a universal theme that, listen, it's a love letter to Black folks, but we want everyone to read it, so it's just kind of centered on our humanity. And that's really what we want. We kind of felt like that was the next step. I mean, it didn't dawn on me that it was such an intrepid thing to do until people were like, I can't believe you did this. You know, it's like, I knew it was hard as hell to get made, and that's probably why, because it didn't have, you know, us getting chased by dogs and hosed down and whipped. Um, but, you know, that is a way of erasing us if we don't show that even during times of duress that we can still, that we still thrive and that we still fall in love and that we still do all of the things that other people do. We're doing it now, right?
Well, that's what I was
So,
about to say about how timely that is, not only from a sort of cultural perspective, but just the perspective of people falling in love. Not only is it universal, or falling in love again, or all these people who are reconnecting on Facebook with their like high school boyfriend. Like, it's a thing that happens.
yeah, and that's a really real thing. It's funny. I don't even know that I had this conversation with you and with Nandi and Tessa, but one of the things that I thought about was I remember my dad was like, I was showing him Facebook. This was like, you know, whatever, 10 years ago. And he was just like, can you look up Joan Washington? I was like, you know, man, you have me like trolling your old girlfriends. What's up with you, dude? And so that was just funny. There was this kind of like thing in the zeitgeist when social media started kind of taking off. Like all of these people were, and I realized that it really was a thing. Like people were like hooking up like crazy, especially people who were like divorced and, you know, like, you know, moving into middle age. They were just like trying to hook up with people. I got a couple of DMs too. I was like, hey, hey, this ain't the eighth grade no more. You know, people from the eighth grade hitting you in your DMs.
So this is like, you know, running into each other outside a Nancy Wilson concert, very similar to someone sliding into your DMs. But I do talk about the rest of the cast here because I am so down to like the smallest role. Like you took great care. And watching Eva Longoria sing Quizás, 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 like a thing I didn't know I needed to see. So tell us a bit about the casting here. I mean, this seems like it must have been a painstaking process. Lance, Erica, Ron, bunches showing up and disappointing everyone. As a character, not as an actor.
No. I know. Ron. Wow. I know. That was a rough one. Yeah. You know, we approached people. We were very lucky that most people who we approached wanted to do it and were interested in doing it. And those who did not, it was basically a schedule issue. But it was just really cool. And the people really feel like they're from that era, like John Magaro and you know and Eva Longoria and you know all of the cast. I think are really kind of. I think it's pretty well cast, and they don't feel like they feel like they're of that era. So you know, I mean, I think that's the big thing because it can take you out of the moment if someone's a little too modern or. You know, but sometimes someone like Tone Bell, who is, you know, kind of very modern and done a lot of comedy, just, you know, sometimes seeing him out of that element can, you know, make him, he's like the perfect Dickie Brewster, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah, they were just, I was just going to say, they were just so excited to do it. You know, they were just so excited to be a part of a project like this because this does not come across their table. You know what I mean? But I think when actors are excited about something, you get their best. I think when anyone is excited about something, you get their best. And that I think that shows in the ensemble. It was just a genuine everyday at work excitement and enthusiasm because they get to step into these shoes with this hair and this makeup and you know for me the high-waisted pants and the fellas, you know, like you got to do things that you never get to do, you know. So I think that also helped with the performance. They were just so excited about it.
Yeah, well, you got to do something you really don't normally do, and I cannot believe that you learned to play the saxophone to do this role. I mean, I love a committed actor, but that is some commitment.
But you know what? It was so much fun. You know, it was so much fun getting to learn it. And again, it goes back to that thing. If you're excited about doing something, you'll stay with it. And I would watch so many documentaries. You know, Ken Burns had a documentary on jazz. I just went down the, you know, Coltrane, Lee Morgan. They had all these documentaries, and I just sort of, you know, I went into it, and then I started to learn, and I started to get excited. You know, it just goes back to the enthusiasm of it, and talking with Eugene every day, and him saying, you got to keep working on the saxophone, even when we weren't. Like, there were so many times when we were gonna make the film, and then the financing or someone would drop off, and you know, that could be discouraging. And then Eugene says, but you got to keep playing, you got to keep playing the saxophone, we're gonna do it, you know. And that was like for a year, and so I just stayed on it, and it was really fun, really rewarding.
Now, are you still playing?
Say it again.
Are you still playing?
I'm gonna pretend that the service isn't well. Say it again. No.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Yeah, I you know what, I played for the first time like 2 or 3 days ago, and it was only because my son was asking to play the saxophone, and he can't play that thing. That thing was like, you know, it's bigger than he is, but that was the first time I picked it up in maybe a year.
Wow. Well, now it's a skill you can add to your resume, friend. So that is a good thing. Eugene, I want to ask you about the music because it is so fantastic that it is really representative of this time of both sort of like frivolous pop music and then serious jazz, and that this is what these folks would be listening to. That like it's not just about jazz snobbery, that it's about everything that's happening at that time. And that "See You Later, Alligator" is like a linchpin here that brings us this Bill Haley that you keep calling back to, which is so great. So I'm curious, did you have this? Was this solely a music supervisor situation, or were you very involved in making all of these needle drops and cues?
Oh yeah, I mean, a lot of that was scripted from the beginning. A lot of those songs were in the original script. I know Tessa and and Namdi both kind of talked about listening to the you could kind of talk about that. The people talked about listening to the music as they read the script, or going back and going on Spotify and listening to it to get the vibe. Yeah, look, I mean, simply put, it was this was stuff that I grew up in the house listening to. You know, my parents played in the background. I was busy listening to, like, Belle Biv DeVoe, and not thinking jazz was super interesting. And then, I don't know, as I got older, I just kind of like, all of a sudden I started to hear what they heard, and realized that these were young people, and that this was the music of young Black folks at the time. And that the idea that like Motown and John Coltrane and all this stuff like sort of existed at the same time, I mean, that's insane to me, you know? But the main thing I wanted to get across was that it's not like just like your grandparents' music, that it is something that was like very alive, and it was controversial to play jazz and to be involved in it. But just the lusciousness of a thing, like, come on, Tessa, that opening shot with Nancy Wilson. I mean, it's like, I saw that in my head a long, long time ago, and just that she was able to. I just wanted to kind of backtrack because we were talking about Namdi learning to play, but Tessa, to give kudos, really learned how to inhabit this space of a 1962 woman that was pretty remarkable to watch. Like the way that she carried herself, and because if she just kind of even had a little bit too much modernity, and there's other ways that she makes it modern, that work for today's generation, but just the way that she carries herself and getting that like kind of vibe, just thought it was really incredible, and it's not easy to do. Yeah, and the dialect too. That's what I'm saying. I mean, she's definitely. There were times when I just felt like I was making a movie from 1962. I was like, wow, this is really weird. But
yeah.
Awesome.
And you all are musical in different ways. And I'm curious, I mean, that's what he was just saying about, did you sort of immerse yourself in these songs and this music at the time to get the sense that this is how I recommend the Sonny Rollins record, by listening to all of these things?
Yes, I mean, I'm someone that collects vinyl and listens to vinyl myself, and my father is a musician, so I feel really lucky and blessed that I grew up, listening to things that were really excellent and having a sense of music across genre. But it is interesting to think of the ways in which your taste matures, and that's something that certainly brings Sylvie and Robert together, is that her current partner, when she meets him, doesn't have the most sophisticated taste in music. And finally, here comes someone that can speak to the sort of music that really sets her aflame. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention that apparently Nnamdi, before working on this part of Robert, was a big Kenny G fan. So even in your adult life, there's
no,
too mature in your music taste.
I was going to ask. I wasn't going to say anything.
We were doing so well. You were doing so well.
He has a T-shirt that says "I love smooth jazz" that he wears. He wore that the first day of rehearsal.
Listen, this is something that I only just learned about Nnamdi. So
these are lies. These are lies. These are lies. I'm telling you.
He is an excellent actor, both off screen and on, because while making the film with him, I really thought that he was versed in some of the artists like Frank, when in fact that was research. But I'm happy that this film gave him the opportunity to broaden, I'll say, his jazz horizon.
Yeah. So you thought he was on some Ornette Coleman business, and he's up here listening to Kenny G.
Listen,
right.
that was really well played. That was good. It was good.
This is what you get when you call in from your car.
Yeah, that's right. All right. Okay.
I'm just saying. But Nnamdi, I have to ask you, because not only did you have to learn how to do this, but again, this music is so important. So, Kenny G aside, was there stuff that you did a deep dive in this that like you just came away with a greater appreciation for artists because you did the film?
Oh yeah, I mean, without a doubt, all of the cats from back, all of the jazz artists from that time period, I started to fall in love with their music, and it didn't matter which instrument they played. It was, from Monk to Sonny Rollins to, it didn't matter who it was. I just started to fall in love with that type of music, and to a nod to smooth jazz. Like smooth jazz, is not that terrible. But what happened was, I'm going to tell you the truth, okay? So I kind of liked smooth jazz, okay? That was what I knew about jazz, okay? I have since pushed smooth jazz to the side, and now I'm really into this. I'm not going to say anything else. That's it.
This is a safe space, Nnamdi. It's okay.
It's not.
And just like
it used to be. It
all went south. But I will say, just like your character in the film talks about going to work for Motown, a lot of those guys, your David Sanborns and Chris Bodes and people like that are in, they play with like Sting and James. I mean, they play with like real bands, but what they do is a little different. It's really okay. It's all about the love. It's all right.
Listen, it is all about the love, and it's all good music, and it's all jazz, and listen, it's all good. It's all good.
So I want to ask you though, I'm obsessed with your former career, and I'm imagining that there are actually things from playing football that maybe that are applicable, to your work here. I mean, and I would imagine practice, just as a cornerstone, being something really useful to you. Are there things that you have found that you learned in the team sport and bring into your theatrical work?
I think that's a big thing, especially as an actor. I think it's this idea of practice. So I love rehearsal. I know a lot of A lot of folks don't, but I love rehearsal just because I grew up on that. You know, I grew up on the practice side of it. So I love the research. I love the everything that comes right before you go onto the stage, you know, like really having to get in that way, because that's what really football is. It's like you put all of this stuff into the week and then you go out on Sunday and you have to just sort of forget everything that you put in and just let your body do whatever it's going to do. So that definitely translates. And then I think as a producer, football just being one of the, or I think the greatest team sport in all of the sports. I mean, it just allows you as a producer to understand what collaboration is, to understand what it means to listen, you know, all those sorts of things. Like, you know, it started off with myself, Eugene, and Gabrielle for such a long time, and then on day one, you see, you know, 100 members of the crew, and you see actors and everything. You just get to sit back and smile and say we're a team. You know, we're gonna make it happen. So, yeah, all of those things sort of I think played a part. You know, there's no Super Bowl, but there's, you know, but it's still fun.
Does that mean are Oscars the Super Bowl?
That's what I was just about to suggest.
It's such an interesting. I mean,
it is and it isn't, though, right? Because it's like apples and oranges. Like your film going up against a science fiction film going, like
Right.
in football, it's really the two best teams doing the exact same thing. Like a
You
period
also
piece.
can't
I
tackle
hear you.
them.
Right.
That too. But don't
I
you
mean,
wish you
can tackle.
could?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was like, wasn't that the year Moonlight won?
We
Yeah,
got to
that's right.
make the Oscars a contact sport. But I wanted to ask you, Eugene, because I think maybe there are some people that probably don't know that you yourself are a musician and were in a band in the 90s. And I'm curious if sort of your musical background informed any of your journey into filmmaking and in this film in particular.
Yeah, I mean, the quick answer is, you know, I was in a band with a 4-guy band, and so that certainly influences the dynamics that you see in with the Dickie Brewster Quartet. But yeah, I mean, it did in a lot of different ways. I played with a lot of really great guys, and as a matter of fact, one of the guys who played on the Dickie Brewster Quartet tracks, Ben Porowski played with Tessa's dad, Chocolate Genius, which is kind of cool. So that was a nice little, you know, kind of thing to throw together. And actually, the two guys in my band, my cousins, played on your dad's first record. Believe it or not, I don't know if I ever told you that.
No, you never told
Yeah,
me.
they played and
Oh.
sang background on it.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. When my cousin came to visit us on set, he was going to tell you, but he thought it wasn't an opportune time. Anyway, but yeah, so just that whole world, it's a very small world being a New York musician.
Yeah.
And so all of that kind of influence, you know, I think the thing you want to get at is there's a reality to it that, like, you know, it's like, I've seen so many movies about music and musicians that are just don't ring true, you know, and you don't even need to play any music at all. There's a way that musicians act or act around each other, and there are dynamics, and there's kind of like all kind of little weird things going on, you know, with a bunch of geniuses in a room that, you know, it's a cool thing to watch. You know, all of these guys are great, you know, but the one who wants to be famous the most is never the one that's famous. It's always the guy who's like reluctant, or the woman who's reluctant. It always goes down like that. I mean, just I've watched it over and over and over again. So there are these classic kind of archetypes in band life that I wanted to kind of put out there that, you know, that so yeah, it definitely influenced that. And just my, you know, my love of music and trying to have good taste about music and what is, like, it was important for us to have the music from that time sound like something that maybe Coltrane and would, you know, sound like authentic bebop and not just like kind of, you know, smooth jazz. So, you know, just you have to kind of know it to understand it, you know. So that's how it influenced it.
Yeah, I mean, it just feels very lived in, like all of the banter between them, all of the friction between them when he wants to like write his own songs, and that moment where they're just like, jazz is over, man, which that guy was wrong, but commercially he was right. Jazz is still happening, y'all. And I'm not going to say anything. And it's not. But we are running out of time. So before I let you all go, I'm going to go to you, Nnamdi, for this. I always like to ask people about, was there a time in your life, was there a person who gave you like a great piece of advice that sticks with you that you would like to pass on now? It could be acting advice. It could be football advice. It could be, you know, how to pack your bag advice. Like, is there something that like pops into your head?
You know what? There is. I had an acting coach in 2016, and she just believed in me. She was like, I know you're coming from a different world, but I really think you can do this. You know, blah blah blah. And she would always say, like if I went into an audition, I would say, oh, but I don't feel good, or da, da. She says, whatever happens is best. And she would always say that, and so I've really adopted that. Right before, she helped me with a film that I worked on called Crown Heights, and right before we premiered, she passed away. She had cancer, and so she never got to see it. And so whatever happens is best is something that I sort of carry with me in everything I do. It keeps me from like getting stressed out. It just keeps me sort of in a place of faith. So I would say that.
That is fantastic advice. I feel like everyone I've talked to, Tessa earlier today, gives great advice. I can't thank you all enough. This was so much fun. It's all the time we have for tonight. A big virtual round of applause out there for our panelists. Thank you for everybody at home for participating today and for supporting the art that makes movie magic a reality. And please enjoy the rest of the SCAD Savannah Film Festival. Thanks, y'all. This was great. Love the film. Have a great rest of your night.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Scott.